Hello, everyone. My name is Kentrell Ziegler, and this presentation is about how a file system works. Since this is framed as training for an IT department, I'm going to explain file systems in a way that connects the technical concepts to real workplace situations. We use files and folders every day, but behind the scenes, there is a system that controls how data is stored, organized, found, protected, and recovered. Understanding that system helps IT teams troubleshoot issues faster and manage storage more effectively. This is a quick outline of what I'll be covering. First, I'll explain what a file system actually is and why it matters. Then, I'll go over its structure, including things like volumes, folders, files, and paths. After that, I'll explain what happens internally when a file is stored or opened. Then I'll compare common file system types, and finally I'll talk about security administration and a few best practices that are especially important for IT departments. A file system is basically the way an operating system organizes and manages data on a storage device. Without it, a hard drive or SSD would just be raw storage space with no clear way to tell where one file begins or ends. The file system gives that storage structure. It creates files and folders, keeps track of names and location, stores important details like timestamps and permissions, and it makes sure that the operating system can retrieve data when it's needed. So in simple terms, a file system is what makes storage usable for both people and applications. File systems matter a lot in IT because they directly affect how we manage and protect business data. When users save files to shared folders, when departments use file servers, or when employees store work on laptops and external drives, the file system is what keeps everything organized. It also supports things like permissions, quotas, encryption, and recovery features. So if users cannot access a folder, if storage fills up, or if a system crashes and needs to be restored, the file system is usually a big part of the issue. That is why IT staff need to understand more than just the user side of files and folders. The logical structure of a file system is the part users are most familiar with. At the top, you have a volume, which is basically the storage area that contains the file system. Inside that, you have directories or folders, which organize files in other folders. A file is an actual unit of data, like a spreadsheet, document, or some image. A path is the full address that tells the system exactly where that file is located. This structure is important because it gives users and applications a consistent way to find and work with data. Internally, the file system is doing much more than just showing a folder on the screen. When a file exists, the system stores a name for it in a directory entry, but it also keeps a metadata record that contains important information about that file. That metadata can include the file size, who owns it, what permissions it has, when it was created or modified, and where its data is stored on the disk. The actual contents of the file are stored in data blocks. So the file system is constantly keeping track of both the information about the file and the file data itself. When a user opens a file, several steps happen very quickly in the background. First, the user or the application requests the file using its path. Then the operating system follows that path through the directory structure until it finds the right file. After that, the file system loads the metadata for the file, checks whether the user has permission to access it, and finds the locations of the data blocks. Finally, the file contents are read from the drive, or sometimes from a memory cache if the file was accessed recently. Even though the user just sees a double click, the system is doing a lot of work behind the scenes. One major feature in many modern file systems is journaling. Journaling means the system keeps a record of changes before they are fully written. If the computer crashes or loses power in the middle of an update, the journal can help the file system recover to a consistent state more quickly. This is especially important in business environments because it reduces downtime and lowers the risk of serious corruption. For an IT department, that means faster recovery and more reliable systems after unexpected failures. There are different types of file systems because different environments have different needs. NTFS is the default for most Windows systems and is popular because it supports security features, quotas, and encryption. FAT32 and exFAT are more common on USB drives and removable media because they are widely compatible. In Linux, ext4 is a common general purpose option, while XFS is known for high performance and scalability. ZFS is more advanced and is often used where data integrity, snapshots, and storage pooling are important. So the right file system depends on the operating system and the goals of the environment. From the IT department's point of view, the file system is also a management and security tool. Permissions and access control lists determine who can read, edit, or delete files. Ownership helps identify responsibility for files and folders. Quotas help prevent users or departments from taking up too much storage space. Some file systems also support encryption and snapshots, which improve data protection and recovery. All of this makes file systems an important part of security, compliance, and day-to-day support. For IT teams, best practices are really about consistency and prevention. It helps to standardize which file systems are used for different workloads, such as laptops, servers, and removable devices. Permissions should follow the principle of least privilege, which means users only get the access they actually need. IT staff should also monitor storage usage so problems are caught before systems run out of space. Finally, snapshots and backups should always be tested because recovery only works if it has been planned and practiced ahead of time. To conclude, a file system is much more than just a way to save documents into folders. It is a core part of how the operating system organizes data, protects information, controls access, and recovers from problems. For an IT department, understanding file systems makes it easier to troubleshoot issues, secure company resources, and support business operations in a more reliable way. Thank you for watching this training. These are some of the resources that I use to conduct this presentation and to actually give you a little bit more of palatable information about how file systems work. Thank you.